We decided not to let COVID get us down this year. When the governor of New York announced that he's going to allow trick-or-treating, we were very excited, but we do want it to be safe for the kitties, so we decided to make a 6-foot candy dispenser. This is not my idea. I got it from another tutorial. I'll post a link in the description. But since I didn't want to use their complete and total idea, I gave it my own twist. We decided to go with a Beetlejuice theme this year. We made 2 mannequins and also the 6-foot candy dispenser, and as a little touch, the Beetlejuice light. I'm going to show you how we did it all on this video. First we went to Michael's craft store and picked up 2 of these foam heads, some floral wire, and some craft pins. And these craft picks actually are made out of wood, and then they have a little 6-inch wire coming off of them. We took a coat hanger, folded it in half, secured it with the craft picks on either side, and then I did remove some of the foam from the center to give myself some workspace. And the part that hangs off of the rod in the closet, we bent around the side of the face just to keep it out of the way. And for Adam, we used half of a pool noodle, and we also secured this using craft picks. We didn't need to remove any foam for this one. Fortunately, I didn't get a lot of pictures, but we used newspaper, masking tape, and cardstock to flesh Adam's face out a bit. And then I stuffed a rubber glove with tissue and mounted it to the top of the head using masking tape. Found a recipe using joint compound, Elmer's glue, flour, water, and linseed oil on the website, and it uses cheap toilet paper pulp, and I tried to use that for paper mache, but I really didn't like the texture, so I did not use that on Barbara's mask. I cut 2 large sections of cardstock to make the upper and lower jaw, and then lined those with a 1-inch diameter strip of cardstock all the way around. I secured it with masking tape and then used newspaper to flesh it out and fill in some of the areas. It worked pretty well. And instead of using the homemade paper mache, we used a combination of joint compound and Elmer's glue and copy paper, strips of white copy paper, and this is the finished result of that. It came out much better, as you can see. We mounted up the area where the tongue is going to go. We used Crayola Model Magic to make the teeth. We had a little snack of cheddar cheese, so I apologize for that being in the picture, but this is the only good picture I got. We made a rough square shape and then used a toothpick to create a T shape in the top, and then kind of rolled it around in her hand, and it worked really well. Here's a close-up view of those teeth. And then it was time to get working on Barbara. I took a piece of cardstock and cut out the shape of a tongue. Then I wrapped the cardstock around a fat marker to curl it up a little bit. I wanted to work with it while it was still wet, and it was important that it had the same shape that you see in the movie. It kind of looks like a wave. So I wanted to glue it down to secure it to the base that I created when I mounted the tissue before I put the paper mache on the mask initially. So I used hot glue to secure it down and then let it dry. It does take a very long time to dry. I would definitely recommend letting it sit overnight. And then I wasn't really satisfied with the texture of the tongue. I thought it looked too smooth, and since I'm using the same color for the tongue and the background, I thought I should make it have a little more texture, a little more like a tongue. So this was the result of that. I think it looks a lot better now. It's been secured. Now I went back to working on the teeth. So I stuck each of these onto a toothpick, and then I used the same joint compound and Elmer's glue mixture to paint a layer. I had planned to paint these, but actually I ended up doing 3 coats of the joint compound and Elmer's glue, and I thought they looked great and didn't need any paint. Then I stuck them in a pool noodle to dry. And this is after I painted it and glued the teeth on with hot glue. And I found those ping pong eyeballs at the Dollar Tree. You get a 6-pack for $1, and I used hot glue to secure the teeth. For the base of the mannequin, I followed a couple of tutorials I found on the web using PVC pipe. I purchased 1/2-inch PVC pipe. They also sell 3/4-inch PVC pipe. And I needed several 90-degree elbows, some 3-ways, some 4-ways, and I used some of the 45-degree angles. And then because I needed to flesh out the pants, I used old soda bottles and pool noodles. So for the base, I used 2 10-inch sections for the front and the back, and then 4 5-inch sections for each of the sides. And there is a 3-way so that you can extend up to the leg. You can see that right there. And then that's a 5-inch section, 90-degree elbow. I think that's more like 8 inches, honestly. I think I started with 10 and thought it was too big. And then another elbow. So the one thing that I did do was I taped the bottom part of the pool noodle to the leg itself, because I knew that I was going to need to disassemble it in order to dress it, and I wanted it to come off in one piece and not worry about the soda bottles falling. All in all, it worked really good. I do suggest that you use some type of adhesive because of the weight of the mask, and also if you're going to have it outside, you know, the wind, you're going to want to make sure that it's secure. So I did put the pants on just to get an idea. This is one of the pieces that you'll need. You'll need 1 per mannequin. And you secure this to the top of this chest piece here. And so you would insert a small piece of PVC pipe on the top to add the mask, and then you'll need to put one for each of the shoulders. And obviously this was too tall, so we ended up reducing it. And this is the Barbara mask, the finished product. So we painted the back of the skull brown, and the reason is that we wanted to make sure that the white foam didn't show through the hair pieces. And the hair that you see in that picture I actually picked up from the Dollar Tree. I used 2 packs. It's from the children's dress-up section, and I thought it worked really well. After a couple days in the elements, the mannequins tipped over, so I took them apart and fastened them using PVC cement. It's purple primer and cement you can find in your local hardware store. I also used half of a pool noodle for the waist and half of a pool noodle for the shoulders to give it some dimension. I just secured it with floral wire. I would definitely recommend using the cement. And then I also needed a way to secure the mask. They're quite heavy, so you want to limit the amount of plaster that you put on them. So I decided to use Gorilla Glue to secure them to the PVC pipe just to prevent them from falling off. As you see, it did fall off and he suffered some damage. And this is the end result. Another thing I would like to mention is that you should cut your height of your mannequin based on the outfit that they're going to be wearing. I made that mistake with Barbara, and she has very obvious PVC legs, so I had to hide those with a floral arrangement. Now it's time for the Beetlejuice sign. So if you've ever seen the movie, you know there's a flashing Beetlejuice sign, and I wanted to replicate that. So I looked at a couple of photos on the web to get an idea of what font to use, and I got my Cricut app and chose a system font that I thought was pretty similar, and it's free. I chose the Roboto Italic, and then I just typed out Beetlejuice and expanded it to about 3.5 to 4-inch letters. And then I printed it on plain white vinyl on my Cricut. If you don't have a Cricut, you can always use stencils. Here's a couple that I have around the house. I got them from Michael's and Hobby Lobby, and they also carry stencils at Dollar Tree now. Once I printed my letters, I decided to cut them out and just place them on the foam board so I can get an idea of how much space I was going to be working with. And once I did that, I measured 3.5 inches from the top and 3.5 inches from the bottom, and then 2 inches on either side. And I used the flat edge of the piece of foam board that I cut off earlier to frame out the workspace. Then I repeated the process for the center where the letters are going to go, just to make sure that they're evenly placed. Now, if I could do this project again, one thing I would change is I would use a clear coat of acrylic paint on the poster board before placing the letters, just to make sure they were a little more manageable. Once I placed them, they were there permanently, and I did make a few mistakes that I wasn't able to correct. And then I used a household item with a diameter similar to the bulb size that I was using, and I traced it in even intervals around the exterior of the board, and then I actually used a kitchen knife to cut it out because I wasn't able to find my X-Acto knife. Then I just pushed each of the bulbs through the holes, and since I wanted to reuse these bulbs, I decided to secure them with masking tape since it's a temporary solution, but it worked well. Once the bulbs were in, I used more masking tape to secure them so they laid flat and only the bulb itself protruded on the front of the sign. Since the sign was going to be temporary and I didn't want to put any holes in the siding of my house, we attached it to an old board that we had, which was spray painted black. I used nails and masking tape, and then for some extra security, some hot glue. For the candy dispenser, you need 6 feet of 3 to 4 inch PVC pipe, a pool noodle, several sheets of foam paper in white, red, and black, Gorilla Glue, it's the only one that works on pool noodles, and Flex Seal white liquid rubber sealant, again because it's one of the only spray paints that works on foam. Now, Gorilla Glue needs to be secured firmly in place for an hour and a half to dry, and normally you would use some type of clamp or a heavy object, but since this was not very sturdy, I had to improvise, and I chose to use some twine that I had, and it worked well. And you want the end to resemble the tail of a snake, so I just trimmed it with scissors. After an hour, I did check on it, and one of the pieces wasn't secure in the front and it slipped a little bit, but overall it worked pretty well, and it was secured to the PVC pipe. And then we sprayed it with Flex Seal. You want to use acrylic, rubber, or latex based spray paint. Others will eat through the foam. Once it was dry, we created the stripes on the snake using black duct tape. I did use duct tape from the Dollar Tree. It wasn't very sticky, so I wouldn't recommend it. I would definitely spend the few bucks to get brand name duct tape if I were to do this again. But I was able to seal it with a acrylic based sealant afterwards. For the snake's head, you need about a 5-inch ring, and I didn't have anything, so I improvised. I traced a candle with a magic marker, and then I used hot glue to give it some sturdiness. It worked well for me, but any ring that you have in the house you can use. Beetlejuice has 2 heads in his snake form, so taking the ring that I made earlier from cardboard and hot glue, I measured and cut upper and lower mandibles for both heads, as well as a column for support and structure for the smaller head. The column will also help the candy travel through into the children's basket. I secured it temporarily with masking tape, and then I secured it permanently with hot glue, which you might also want to use Gorilla Glue for this if it's going to be outside in the elements. Since it didn't have a template, I made several adjustments until I was satisfied with the size and shape of both of the snake heads. Then I added teeth that I cut out of foam and thin black stripes to match the rest of the snake's body. Then I traced a dime 4 times to make the eyes, and again, we did have a lot of waste, so if you're able to get smaller foam, I would recommend it unless you're going to reuse it for another project. Now, the snake version of Beetlejuice does have a lime green lip on both heads. I didn't have anything lime green in my house, but I had this teal permanent marker. I think lime green puffy paint would have been a better option and gave it some more dimension. I secured the head to the dispenser using Gorilla Glue. And this is the finished product. We use zip ties to secure it to the banister. If you don't have a banister, there's a link in the bio to the original 6-foot candy dispenser window, and they made a stand out of PVC pipe.
my
This video almost did not go up.
My mom is bribing me $20 to edit a part of her ass out of the video.
I didn't realize that my butt was in the camera.
I keep
Thank God for
threatening her to
her.
send it to her coworkers.
Yes, and she's embarrassing me.
Barbara and Adam. You gave Barbara cystic acne.
No, it's not.
So you
it's
put
Adam.
paper and
First
glue.
of all,
You put paper, glue, and concrete on her face to fix it.
it was an intern.
Mom, you put the thank you very much sign in the middle of the video.
Jude, that's what I'm paying you for. I asked you to fix it.
That's not how you spell Beetlejuice.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Have you seen the movie?
It's not how you spell it.
Oh my God, that is how his name is
Mom,
spelled
it's
in
like
the movie.
apple juice.